I think that's what's sad now is this excuse of that, when I think the reality is I am still seen as sort of a toxic brand to a lot of people, and they don't want to wade into these waters right now. And I think I'm now turning conservative, and oh my God, I'm more of a right leaning YouTuber. So, oh my God, I can't, don't talk to Jeremy. Oh my God. And it's like, that's the reality of just like, why not? What? You're not scary. We're having a conversation.
Well, I think it's that bubble. I think it's that bubble that you are very familiar with in Hollywood. I mean, look, there are YouTubers, okay? There are a lot of YouTubers that are very well known. Some of them I've talked about this publicly because they've given me the
name one. Come on, go ahead.
Well, no. Well, what I'm saying is I can't. There are people that have reached out to me privately that have expressed respect for what I do and what I say, but they can't affiliate themselves with me publicly because it would
the stigma
hurt their brand or whatever. And I totally understand that. I mean, some of these people
it still pisses you off though, be honest.
To an extent, but only because I'm so new to this. Like, dude, like I said, less than a year and a half ago, dude, I was nothing. I had I had 100 or I had like less than 1,000 subscribers. To me, I'm still kind of like trying to process the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you. I mean, just 2 years ago, nobody followed me. Nobody cared about anything I said. And I was riding the fence as when I ran Geeks and Gamers, I created Geeks and Gamers like 6-7 years ago, maybe 8 at this point. I can't even remember now, but I always stayed off of the political side of the discussion. I was in the middle. I never took a position. I never wanted to say anything public. Now my team, who is full of people all over the, political landscape, from, left wing, right wing, whatever. They were allowed to say whatever they wanted. But I, as the leader, I felt like it was my duty to stay above that and yada, yada, yada. Well, then late 2017, channel wasn't going where I wanted it to go. We had been just kind of really buttoned up. Even my team that I had in charge of the YouTube channel, they were specifically like, because of the culture I had created, they were like, Jeremy, if you go on YouTube, you can't be Jeremy. You've got to be the leader, Jeremy. You can't be the real Jeremy, because you say shit that'll piss people off. And I never did it. But then late 2017, right before The Last Jedi came out, I told my team, I was like, at the beginning of the year, it's over. Because right now, people are weaponizing you being a Trump supporter. If they'll expose you, like, hey, that guy's a Trump supporter. And I'm like, I'm not going to let people weaponize my political opinions. You know what I mean? I'm absolutely, if that's how they want to play the game, I'm going to go public with it. It's almost like coming out as gay at this point when you're being a Trump supporter in, a public space. So I decided I was going to do that. Had a lot of people on my team bailed, including one of your biggest fans. I'm not going to say his name. He's watching this video because he told me, he's like, I'm freaking out that you're talking to Andy now. He left. Among other things.
Screw him.
No, he's not a bad guy at all.
Tweet me privately. I'll say hi to him.
I will talk to you about it privately. You're going to know who it is too. But anyway, that's when The Last Jedi came out. And I was still I was a Star Wars Celebration, like I said, in Orlando. I was at the Battlefront panel. And I remember before the Battlefront 2 announcement, the person got up on stage and like, are there any girl gamers in here? And there was like fucking 10 girls out of like the hundreds and hundreds of people in there screamed. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Why are you even asking a gender specific question? You know what I mean? Like, that just felt so weird. And then of course we got the Iden reveal, which I loved Iden. I thought Iden was a great character. Battlefront 2 was a great game in terms of the multiplayer. The campaign was a little hit or miss, but that's neither here nor there. I started seeing the pieces of the puzzle in terms of what I was being frustrated with at Star Wars, but I never said anything publicly about how I felt. Then The Last Jedi came out. And I found myself in a bit of a predicament because I have been a vocal prequel defender forever. And I will go
do another video about that together.
Huh?
We'll have to do another video about that together.
Are you a prequel defender? Or?
No. That's why I would love to fight you on that. But
End this discussion now. Cancel Andy. I didn't know.
Yeah, I respect, though, that it's more visually stunning and interesting because Lucas actually did new things in it. So I don't.
True. We will have a discussion on that. I don't want to open that one up because we can go for a while. But I've always been a big prequel defender and going after people that would hate on the prequels. You know what I mean? And I was like, how can I hate a Star Wars movie? That would go against everything I've ever said because I've always stood up for Star Wars. I've always stood up for the vision. I was a big Force Awakens guy. But eventually I just had to own it. And around like January, I just started being honest. I've never been honest on YouTube. And
Found your voice.
Boom, and through the roof. Our following went through the roof and everything like that. So it was great. But
it's interesting because you're this is awesome to hear, and congrats. I mean, that's everyone always asks me for advice, even when I was famous or whatever. But it's like, what's your advantage is always what I would say. Like, how do you find something that you have that the others don't? Whether it's a location, like, hey, I work at a Halloween store. Cool. Do your YouTube channel out of the Halloween store because that's your advantage. Whatever it is, a voice, a specific thing you have, all of those, everybody, we all have something. If you're out there just regurgitating what everybody else is saying on Screen Junkies Collider, whatever it is, good luck, man. And that's the problem right now is I'm stuck in like regurgitating the things I created, and I'm now back at like the bottom. And so I'm having to reevaluate the algorithm and they're like, well, how do I rise above? And so like the politics and my stories is what's sending me. So it's fascinating to her because you're basically saying once you started being yourself and having that unique voice of a more conservative leaning Star Wars fan, there wasn't any other space in there that was doing it. So that's what clearly rose your rise of fame, correct?
Yeah. And I do, and I don't have a problem being called a conservative voice. I know, and I guess I am because I say I'm a Trump, but I am truly not a Republican. I'm straight independent. I was on.
What would you call yourself? Because I don't mean to offend you.
No.
Terms here.
First of all, like I told people when I was at Celebration, because I said it on a live stream, and I said I said if you see me at Star Wars Celebration, I need you to say, hey, fuck you, Jeremy. That way I'll pay attention to you. Because nobody that hates me would actually say that to me in public. They would only say it on the internet. So I had people like, I'm walking around like, hey, fuck you, Jeremy. I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on, man? So it's literally
Hail Hydra was ours.
Yeah, exactly. So
Hail
nothing
Hydra.
can offend me. But no, I am very, very down the middle on politics. Strong supporter of Barack Obama for his first term. And I say supporter because I never voted ever, but I was a big supporter of Obama. You can go back to my Facebook and see how I was laughing at the Republicans for crying their eyes out because Obama got elected, because they were much like the left wing is now with Trump. They just cry. I stopped supporting Obama after with about 2 years left in his second term. I just didn't like a lot of the things he was doing. Leading into the 2016 election, I thought Trump was just trying to, I don't know, promote a new book or a new hotel. I didn't think he was serious.
Total. That is fact. I think.
But so I was, but as he, kind of started getting some traction, and then it was Bernie on the other side with Hillary. I liked Bernie too, not because I liked Bernie's politics per se. It's never been about politics for any politician that ever gets elected. It's about something tangible that they have. So like Bernie and Trump both presented an opportunity to upset the establishment. And that's what I was.
You like the rebel rousers.
Yes. And so, yeah, I really don't get caught up in social issues and things like that. I look at what impact someone can have on the culture. So like for me, the reason I was a big supporter of Obama, I hated George W. Bush. I despised the Republican Party because of the Iraq and weapons of mass destruction and Cheney. I just couldn't stand them. So I wanted a culture shift. So that's why I wanted Obama, because there was no way McCain and Palin were going to do anything but just kind of carry on with the Bush administration. So when I was frustrated with Obama, I looked at it and said, okay, Trump literally is the only human being that can change the climate right now.
That is true.
And, so that's how I look at it. I don't look at the policies are irrelevant, you know what I mean, to me, in terms of like, because it all comes down to Congress and the House, and it's all a pissing match with them, you know what I mean. But Trump, he'll just walk in there and he'll just say what he wants. He doesn't care. But yeah, I do get labeled as a conservative voice, and and for anybody that doesn't listen to everything I say, that totally makes sense. Because at the end of the day, I am branded a Trump supporter. You're a Trump supporter, you're a conservative, you're a right wing, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're all those things, which is totally fine. But let me shift.
Not fine, for the record. I want to defend that because it's not fine, and I think I fell into that trap, and I think that is something that a lot. You talk about the bubble, and the bubble is absolutely real. The bubble is absolutely real in California, and they just really have this entitled attitude towards everything because we're in LA and we drink expensive waters and we drive around to the Ivy and blah, 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 and go to the Grove. And it is absolutely an elitist environment that just makes you think that, oh, well, Jeremy and the minions over there and Andy in Florida, oh, they don't really know. They don't really get it. We're way more important and above them. We understand it better. It is absolutely fact. And it does suck you in, and you sort of believe it, and you become greater than yourself because you think, oh, well, yeah, everyone wants to be here in California. We know what's going on. We know how everyone should be. And the truth is, it's not true. That's not true. And so it's like, and people think, oh, it was just bitter in Florida and he's just trying, he got pushed out of LA. It's not like he chose to. No, I chose to leave LA and I'm grateful I did. And I have no interest coming back because when I sat here in Florida with like people who just go out and drink and they're mailmen and they're just regular people who work 9 to 5 and want to just geek out and not talk about their Twitter handles. It was just so refreshing to like realize the real people in the world just want to, they don't shit on movies as much as I do. They find, easy things about it. And I slowly realized, oh wow, I can turn off the honest trailer brain and like just enjoy a movie again. And you realize like what real America and real people are about. And I see now why Trump was so appealing. And now it's seeing how the left, the bubble and all the left people are pushing and they're becoming so extreme. It's so obvious that Trump is going to win again. It's like, they don't get it. Like my story, all these stories, the fact that they're not taking it, it's just all more examples as to why Trump will win. Because people are just going to get more and more and more upset and feel bullied, and like it's just too much. And it's frustrating because I don't really want him to get elected again. I think I don't like the real reason I have with Trump, just because I want to say it for like I just think he's a bully, and I think he's inappropriate to a level like I don't want my children thinking that that's the president, that he can just lie as often as he wants to. And I get all politicians lie, but he's gotten to a point where it's just like he literally doesn't do anything. He just watches TV, tweets out while he's on the toilet, and it just frustrates me that we don't hold a president into standards. And granted, I don't care who it is, just fake it. Just pretend like you're being someone important. But this idea that he can just, it really irritates me to a level where I'm just like, I'm not proud. I do feel like we need to at least have a error of attempt to have a professionalism. And I don't think he has it. Like even the story the other day about no one wanted to pose with him at the hospital. So they yanked the baby, and that frustrated me. I got to be honest. Like, why is he doing these things? Like, that's my problem with Trump. It's like, but at the same time, when I have the conversation and I talk to people like you, I don't have a problem because I understand why, because you're frustrated. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're just frustrated with the system in general, and you like that he's mixing it up. And
well, see, like, you say like, you're frustrated that someone like Trump can become president, but that is a response to the political system. Let's go all the way back. Okay. Bill Clinton did not get elected on policy. Bill Clinton got elected because he went on Arsenio Hall, put on some sunglasses and played a saxophone. And George W. Bush did not get elected on policy because he failed at everything he ever did. He got elected because he was a guy you can have a beer with.
Yep.
And relatable. He had the last name and he had the political family to back him up.
You're right. And Obama had hope, and he was such a good speaker, and everyone, oh my God, look at this.
Right. No, nothing to do with his, he was a community organizer and a one-term senator. So Trump is just the result of all this. It's a popularity contest, and it's never been about policy. It's never been about accomplishment. It's always been about the most popular person, or the person that can get up there and do whatever needs to be done, yada, yada, yada. And
we agree. Look at this. How crazy. We're agreeing on things.
And so I made this point a while back, because you remember when Ben Affleck was cast as Batman and the internet lost its collective mind. While I don't like Affleck's Batman after the fact, I was in full support of the casting because I love Ben Affleck. I just didn't like his Batman when it was all said and done. But my point was we live in a world where Donald Trump has a better chance of becoming the president of the United States instead of being cast as Batman. That's so the world we live in. Because you cast him as Batman, guess what? It'll never happen. Nope. If they make the announcement, hey, Donald Trump, he's a billionaire, so he's going to play Bruce Wayne.
He could make his own Batman, I suppose.
The internet would never allow that announcement. Once it was made, there would be a complete and total meltdown, because there is a standard for who plays Batman. Whether you agree or disagree, the internet and society and our culture, we have a standard of who is going to play Batman, and it better be somebody relevant. No, we don't have a standard for president. We just have a popularity contest, and that's the result.
And I'm curious, do you think there should be a standard for president? Do you have
absolutely kids? Yes, I do. Yeah, I have a daughter.
Honest answer, are you proud that Trump is our president for your daughter?
Absolutely. Because
why?
Well, because
I wasn't trying to get you. I wanted to have
no. Because I don't like where the culture was going. Like I said, with Obama was just as bad as Trump. He was just better at hiding it. Like, Obama would get up after this is why Obama lost my support after 6 years. Obama really was responsible for a lot of the racial division when these police shootings were happening, when none of the support, we were getting no facts, but Obama would come out publicly and speak on the situation before the investigation was done. And he was sending a lot of bad vibes out there. Now, then we start seeing all these riots and all this racial tension, and cops can't do their jobs. Now, look, I'm a big supporter of police. I'm a big supporter of the military. But at the end of the day, I understand that there's bad seeds within anything. And if you're a human, you have to understand that nobody's perfect. I would say 98% of cops are really good cops, you know, and there's, you know, the few.
I would have no idea how to even make that ratio, but I
yeah.
see.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I've never had a negative interaction with a cop. And that's because I carry myself well. If I get pulled over, and I've had a lot of tickets and I've had a lot of suspended licenses, my white privilege must have ran out. But the point is, when I get pulled over, I put both hands on the steering wheel, fingers out. When the cop is approaching, he needs to see your hands on the steering wheel so he knows you're not fumbling around, you're not doing something crazy. You know, my windows are so, I don't know if I should say this. My windows are really dark. Probably too dark, and so I need to make sure that there's yeah. So, but the point is I try to be as cooperative as possible. Yes, I've never been arrested, but I used to do a lot of street racing when I was young.
Did you watch that clip of the cops who drawed out their weapons and stuff because the girl stole the doll and you watch that one?
Oh yeah. My
point is, like, I know they're rare. I don't know how often, and I'm not trying to make a point here, but like the difference is you and I are white, and the reality is, whether it's right or wrong, I can see the other side of someone who's black who does that, has a different experience when they're pulled over. Like, do you at least acknowledge that?
Well, I think that I do acknowledge that there's a different perspective on that in those situations, but at the same time, I also believe that it's been ingrained in a lot of people that aren't whites' minds that the cop is there to kill you. So they're already the person being pulled over to find in that situation are already in defense.
They're on hot level one.
Right. Exactly.
Because a lot of them have been beaten or mistreated in the past. And
some of them haven't, some of them have, but when they're
taught to believe that's what's going to happen. Right.
When you present a fairly aggressive tone, you know, in a situation like that, then the situation is going to be escalated. I just think in an individual level, if you're not doing anything wrong and if you have nothing to hide, you can make the situation as easily, you know, you can make the tension as easy as possible, or you can make it as difficult as possible, depending on how you're acting. You have to understand the cop is there to resolve the situation. That's it. But once you start escalating it, then you can put a lot of tension in the situation, and then who knows what happens from there. But yes, there are bad cops out there, and it is frustrating when they don't get held accountable. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's what I was going to say. Like the problem is there is racism in America. There is. I don't know how much. It's hard to actually quantify it, but I do believe there is, and I do believe there are bad apples, and that's what the problem is. And I think it's also education. It's just like, you know, I don't want to get into the whole race politics of the world, but it's like, because this is a whole other conversation. I'm sure people are getting bored. They're like, what do you guys, come on, go back to Star Wars.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop a lot of this up and individually upload. But no, I'm going to upload the whole video, but I'm also going to upload like little 5-10 minute sections, because we've had a lot of good discussions in here. You know what I mean?
And I was going to say, like, I hear what you're saying, but I think it's more complicated, and it's hard for two white guys to talk about racism in America because I don't feel like we've experienced it the same way.
I would disagree with that. Okay, so
okay, I see what you're saying.
No, I've talked about this publicly. I don't have a problem talking about it before. It's about the fact, how do you handle the situations you've been through? Okay, now I grew up younger. My dad owned several Domino's pizza stores, and he sold them. And after he sold them, we kind of moved around a lot, you know. And so I moved to different schools. So you go to different schools, different places. It's hard. Sometimes you're the new kid. You get picked on, whatever. I was at a school. I was big time basketball fan. Loved Michael Jordan. Worshipped Michael Jordan with all my heart when I was younger. And I loved playing basketball. And I always had to have the newest pair of Air Jordans. So I started. I went to school at a place in Montgomery, Alabama. And you could basically take the back of my phone and put about 5 white specks on it, and that's what our school looked like overhead. I was one of maybe 5 white kids. I walked in there on my first day with Jordans on and got the shit beat out of me because I was a white boy and I wasn't allowed to wear Jordans. Now, what did I do? I dealt with it, you know? I also have been physically removed from basketball courts because of the color of my skin, because I had to show that because initially walking on the court, oh, you fucking white boy, you don't belong here. And so that's automatically I'm being judged on the color of my skin. Now, once they saw me play, I earned the respect. Now, that's life though. It is what it is. I make these same judgment calls on people all the time. You know what I mean? I've ran into people, you know, that want to do this, do that, and I'll prejudge them, you know, but I've been physically removed. I've been punched by a black girl at that same school and then ganged up on. It's just part of it. And I couldn't hit her back. What the hell are you going to do? You know what I mean? I can't hit the girl back. Now, that doesn't mean my situation is any better or worse than anyone else's, because as an individual, we respond to what we've been through. So my stuff is not better or worse or equal than anybody else's, but it still doesn't make it easy that I went through it. And it still didn't make me feel good at the time. And it's still, the next time you go on that basketball court, you're thinking like, oh my God, I'm like, is it going to happen again? You know what I mean? I just want to play basketball, but I'm already feeling like I'm going to be judged because I'm a white guy and I shouldn't even be here, you know? And that happened multiple times in my life. So everybody goes through something.
No, and I'm not to discredit that. I hear you. Howard Stern talks about it all the time. I was a long-time listener for him, and he talks about that growing up in school, and he got beat up all the time too. But I don't want to. It's just interesting. I mean, it is fascinating. But my point is like not to downgrade what you're saying, but I don't think it's the same, because I do feel like we do have white privilege. I do think white privilege is real. I think it's starting to turn. And I think now I can understand why a lot of white people are upset because of forced diversity and all these things. Like I've heard that, I've had conversations with that with people here, and that can be a whole nother topic we do. My point is like, slavery was real. Slavery was real. And, you know, white action heroes is real. And it's like, there's just a history of white people have had control for longer. And the reality is like a lot of,
that's due to statistics and demographics. I mean, 13% of the population. I mean,
sure, but I mean, it's also, we go back to Reagan and the drug policies and why urban cities are poorer. Like my point is we can go on so many lefts and loops and things for forever to explain, well, why were black people poorer in poor neighborhoods for so long? Like all of these, why is it hard of a struggle for them? The point is like, it's just hard to compare for me. I'm not black, but I've had conversations with friends who are, and it's like, I know that struggle is real because I want to figure out like, how do I make sure I'm just being fair, and not assuming I have certain rights or things. And I think the reality is I think we're getting to a better place, but you're absolutely right. There are a lot of, people who are racist of all people. It's not just, and I think your examples are fair and I'm not trying to discredit them, but my point is I'm sure those black people were having struggles their whole life and knocked down by not seeing their Black Panther when they grew up until now. They haven't really had those opportunities. They feel like they're left out in the world because they didn't have as many opportunities. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, that's all I'm saying.
I do, but
our experiences when you.
No, I do. Yeah, I do, but you mentioned Black Panther, and I'm like, so did Blade not happen? Because
it wasn't as popular.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't as popular. It was
R-rated. Kids couldn't go.
It was as popular, pushed by the media. That's the problem.
It was R-rated. Kids couldn't go. Black Panther was like the mecca of families. Little kids could go see Black Panther.
Meteor Man, damn it!
No, Meteor Man sucked. Robert Townsend, come on. Blank Man, maybe. For Black Man,
always bring Meteor Man up.
I did. It was fun as a kid, but there was no Black Man. My point is, look, I don't want to get into it because I don't know, but I hear you. I respect what you're saying.
Well, no, I'm glad. Look, the most fun I have with people is when we don't agree on stuff. I mean that. I mean.
No, but it sounds like you're open and you're not a racist. I don't believe you are a racist. We're having a dialogue about it. And I think that's what's more important, that we can have this dialogue and not.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I'm very attracted to discussions where people will, challenge, ask questions, stick to their guns on their issue. I don't like agreements. Agreements are boring as fuck. This is why a lot of my team does not agree with me, and I like it like that.
I want to do a show. You have to come now that you've gotten 100 videos from me. You're gonna have to come on mine, and we're gonna have to do some challenge video where I try and change your mind. Because have you seen my new show, Change Your Mind? What I'm doing, the Nerd Dish?
The Thor. I saw the Thor. I did see that one. I shared it. That was really good because you sent me the link to that one.
I do another one. I think it's dropping tomorrow, but I say the Black Widow movie is gonna suck. Change my mind. And I have all these people just losing their mind. It says, no, come on, it's the female superhero we don't have enough of them. And I have a fair answer and do it. But my point is, it'd be fun to do another version.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So, all right. So I do want to circle and kind of go to your creation, because I don't know this story. the creation of Honest Trailers and Screen Junkies, how did all that happen? And I have a reason for why I'm asking you that, because I'm going to follow up with something else. So the creation of Screen Junkies, tell me your path, because I don't know the story, because I think it's fascinating to find out.
I worked for a company, and they owned the website screenjunkies.com. And then we didn't have a YouTube presence. And there were some managers, people above me at the time, trying to figure out who were tasked with how do we make sure there's YouTube show channels on it. And there was this concept of this guy who's now claiming it was his idea. He's wrong. He's lying. But he had this idea called "Your Movie Sucks." And it was just this idea I was just not into. I was just like, oh, I just don't want to bash movies week to week and go rehash old movies and say why they sucked. I was just like, no, it's just not exact. So I was sort of tasked with, no, we had to do it. That was sort of the top up told me what to do. So my goal was like, well, all right, well, how do I make this interesting? And so as we were doing it, then I was like, well, man, as I was looking at these old movies that we're doing, like, man, I love old trailers. Like back in the day when the voiceover, Don LaFontaine, all these people like did like, well, a man and the blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I was like, well, that format would be interesting. What if we just did a trailer that was just like honest? And we talked about what the movie's really about. And that way it's not always just about sucking, but it's about honesty. And we'll use the format and I'll find an epic voice. And so that was the birth of Honest Trailers. And so that was me. And I did come up with that and I tried to oversee it. And then my colleague at the time, Brett, was there. And then we had some writers who helped in the early days, really helped find the voice of the series. But the concept was sort of born there. And then we tried it with the Phantom Menace because it got re-released in 3D. And I just was like, why? You're trying to trick us? We already know we already know what happened. You can't trick me with 3D, Lucas. And so it became this sort of funny idea. And then we got this guy, funny enough, he was on Westworld. His name's Ptolemy Slocum. He's the redheaded worker with the white suit. It's him and the Asian guy. Have you watched the show?
I watched season 1. I didn't see season 2.
Well, what's her name? Tondi Newton is always down there, and they have the two workers.
Okay, I know you're talking about. Yep. Okay.
So he was the original voice of that first trailer because he did a Got Milk commercial, and a friend at the time was like, "Oh, he's a good voice actor." He came into the first one, and as we were doing it, he's like, "You need a better voice. I'm not the voice." But he was really funny, and he was helping. And then at the time, as I was recording him, I'm like, we had this sort of half-assed script. And as I was recording him and hearing him in a world, he was doing it. I was like, this is really funny when we talk about all the boring things in Phantom Menace. Council meetings, more council meetings, sitting, all the dumb things that I did in Phantom Menace. So that was where it got born. And then so we were writing it, it happened, and then it sort of took off. And it really took off because I had a contact at 9gag, which was a website that I presented it to at the time, which was really popular at the time. He was a fan, so he supported it. And he posted it. And that really was the secret. My relationship there was a secret reasoning why that sort of took off, because he embedded the YouTube clip and it took off. Okay. So then we followed up with Twilight, Titanic, and Transformers. And then we realized, oh, this is something we can do. And then it really turned the tide when I did The Dark Knight and Avengers, were sort of two movies that were good that we were doing an honest trailer for. And I was sort of tasked, I had both of them, and I was tasked with like, well, how do we make an honest trailer for a film that's good? And so once I cracked those two, it's sort of, then we knew, okay.
The Dark Knight. I remember The Dark Knight. Because I was like, how the hell are they going to do The Dark Knight? And then you ended it with like, oh, who are kidding? This movie's effing awesome. You know,
so
and
that was the turn. I was like, well, we can admit it was good, but there's still faults in the movie. I still think there are. But that's where it was born. And then that became the series. And then it was just the company saying more and more. How do we do this for every genre and everything possible? And so it was always me pushing back, like, relax. We don't want to do it twice a week like CinemaSins. Let's make it fresh. And then, that's sort of where, and then finally it became a weekly to do. And so that's the short history of Honest Trailers for you.
Okay. That's awesome, man.
We had two voices, and John Bailey was the main voice, who everyone now knows, but we had an epic voice before him for about 12 episodes. And then he got stationed in Atlanta and he couldn't record. So we had to find a new voice. And then we found John. It was really funny when we changed the voice. Everyone forgets this. When we changed the voice, people were so mad. Like we thought the show was over because like, who's this dumb voice? We hate him, blah, 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 blah. Bring back the old voice. And now suddenly it took about I would say 2 months, 3 months. And then they finally became fans of him. And now obviously he's the voice. And if we took him away, I'm sure if they took him away, they would say, where's the voice again? But it's always funny how the internet does not like change.
Yeah, no, they don't. They definitely don't. So yeah, I mean, did you ever, through all the growth and the success, did you ever really fully comprehend it at the time, or was it just kind of a wave that you were just riding, or were you able to kind of take a step back and go, holy shit, I am the man? How did that go? I mean,
Well, I mean, I'm sure I said that and I shouldn't have, but I didn't consider myself as the man, but I was always like, oh, wow, I might be able to make a career out of this is really what
Mhm.
the goal was. How do I make a career making content? I did not done it since high school. When I was in high school, I was making little videos in video class. I had a video class that really got me into making movies before YouTube. And so every year we'd have an assembly. And so that was always my drive. Every year, I was like, I got to make some funny videos for that assembly. That's when the whole school's going to watch, the teachers. They're all going to laugh or enjoy my videos if I do them right. And so every year became sort of a challenge for me. Like, how do I please the audience? And so that sort of not just need, but learning how the audience reacted and what made a funny video, what made it work. That's been something I'd been working on for a while. And I had viral hits before, honest trailers. I'd done some other series. I won an MTV Movie Award for a short I did called United 300, which I think you'd like if you haven't seen it. But I mashed up United 93 with the movie 300. So they're on the plane, and the terrorists are the are German terrorists. And before the plane with the plane curtain goes, and there's 300 Spartans, and they kill the terrorists. It was a lot of fun, but it won me an MTV Movie Award, which is right here. Look, I'm not making it up. See, it's official. What?
Nice, nice.
That was really a heyday back in the time. I was like, holy crap! I actually won. Like Samuel L. Jackson gave me this, and it was like a big deal. So I was very proud of that, and that sort of got me to the level where I could make content for a company and then be able to have the opportunity to make sort of an honest trailer. So I had other. So when you say like, oh, as the man, like it finally dawned on me like, oh, we have a working format. Like that was always the goal. Like, how do I have a format that can sustain and do more? And then I was immediately just trying to figure out what's the next format, because you gotta, whenever you have any minor success advice again to offer, any increment of success, it's no one cares. They want to know what's next.
Right.
That's always, you got to have 10 ideas ready to go. So when you have that wave, you jump into the next one. And so even when I had this, I was like, oh, cool, I did it. And I had meetings at all the agencies. They're like, all right, well, cool. What do you want to do next? And I was not prepared for it. And then that sort of slowed me down. And then I prepared and figured out, okay, now I can do this. But yeah, I never thought I was the man. I thought, great, I'm actually good at what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we made Man at Arms, which is a show I'm really proud of, or we made swords. I found a blacksmithing video and I was like, man, this blacksmithing is an art. Like, what if they made the He-Man sword? That'd be even cooler. So I tracked down this blacksmith, and we made this whole show where each week he made video game and pop culture weapons, batarangs, you name it. They pretty much did everything now. The Buster Sword from Final Fantasy, like it was awesome. Look that one up if you haven't seen it. But anyway, my point was I became then very successful at my job because I was able to make formats, because I knew that was sort of how you had to be successful. What's a repeatable format that you could get sponsors for, and people are going to want to tune back in. And the real claim to fame, I still say, was Honest Trailers, was the sort of comments at the end of like suggesting the trailer, but also, what do you want me to say in my epic voice, which was something I came on early. And I stole that from David Letterman, because Letterman did a bit way back in the day that I remembered as a kid. I loved it. He had Barry White come on, and it was like top 10 things that sound awesome said by Barry White. And number one was jazzercise. And it always stuck with me. It's like, that was really funny. So when I had the epic voice, I was like, man, it'd be really funny to have the epic voice say funny, stupid things that the audience suggested. And that created the engagement. People were commenting like crazy to request trailers, and then the request say this. And that really was a secret weapon to keep the algorithm working, because I had engagement. I never thought I was the man. I just thought, finally, it's my skills are paying off. Like I do have something. And so that was really the reality to it all.
So with all of the success that you saw, and you've seen success that few have seen on YouTube, do you think that you've learned a lot that's going to help you apply for the next phase of your life in your YouTube career in entertainment? Do you think that how do you think you can take a lot of that success and apply it to the next phase of your career?
I mean, I have so many ideas, but the reality check now is just funding. It's like the problem is like the YouTube algorithm is real. The struggle there is legit, and YouTube as a platform is flawed. People subscribe to your channel and they aren't alerted of your videos. You're just basically, it's a lottery every day you upload. So I'm working all day striving to try and make content full time, but I need to pay the bills and pay rent. And so the reality check comes in of like, I got plenty of ideas, but the problem is you rely on doing cheap, quick webcam reviews and things, because you can't sustain the output that YouTube requires unless you figure that out. And that's why I built this little sort of silly little studio in my garage, because I was like, I need to be able to go live. I need to be able to go quick. How do I just import it into OBS and then get it up? because the reality right now is you have to post 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you don't, YouTube doesn't care about you. And so it's not, the answer isn't as positive. I mean, right now my goal is to launch this Kickstarter, which is I'm really in heavy gear, and I'd love your support, and anybody who's interested to watch this long. I have this new project called Hugging the Cactus that I'm trying to just get funding for, because if I can reach my goal, it can really just get me some funding for the next few months to like live while I pursue it and see if it can take off. Because the whole idea of the show is, how do I find other people that deserve second chances? How do I find people who like have been burned like I have, or never had the opportunity to even share their truth and just want to be heard and have like real, good dialogues? I feel like what I've grown through, I'm not an expert, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I've had some really fascinating conversations with some people who've already reached out to tell stories and share those stories to sort of help shine the spotlight I've gotten on other people that I feel like just want to be heard, because that's really what it's about, right? I mean, we all just want to be heard. That's why we're making YouTube videos. That's why so many people strive to make YouTube videos. That's why people are always on Twitter reacting or canceling people. Just, we all have our own insecurities and issues. And sometimes people really get screwed by the world and deserve a second chance or a voice. And so Hugging the Cactus is this new series I'm trying to get out, and I have a Kickstarter. If you look up Hugging the Cactus on Kickstarter, or hopefully you'll link it.
It'll be a link. Yeah, there'll be a link.
If you check that out, you can support it. I'm like 20 days left or so, and I'm about almost 40% for like a 10 grand goal. It's not that large, but it's proving like I gotta hustle again. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to try and get there. But I appreciate you letting me come on and plug it.
Honestly, we can take this little section here, and I'm going to do a specific upload. So go into more detail with this if you want, because I think the idea on the premise is absolutely fascinating. So kind of just take us through it. We will make this an individual upload because I want to support the project, because I think people deserve second chances, and they need someone that's gone through hell in order for them to understand that. And you obviously have the talent and the knowledge, and you have the experience now that I think you could actually help some people with that. So let's get more details about this. And
yeah, no, I mean, right now I had some stretch goals. I don't know if I'll meet the stretch goals, but I just want to get that 10 grand goal, because then it'll become sort of a video podcast where I'm going to have longer form interviews with these people. If I can get enough, or if I can figure out a way to get some income coming in to do it, I want to go film some of these stories and do a sort of like little mini documentaries. But the goal is like, I want to vet these people as best I can, because I don't want to just have a bunch of people. They said I raped this girl and I didn't. That's obviously a dangerous net I don't want to get into, because I don't know what's true, but I want to find stories that are more vettable, that are, easier for me to sort of say, yeah, you did get screwed, or you clearly messed up, but you're apologetic. You've learned the errors of your ways. Let's give you a voice again. There's a politician I've reached out to. I don't want to because none of them have confirmed, but close to confirming. But there's this amazing politician who she got pushed out for her politics and saying something she shouldn't have said that she didn't actually say. It's a really heartbreaking story that I'd love to tell her story. There's a filmmaker who got screwed big time. You might know who it is, and I don't want to, until I confirm it, I don't want to say it, but that's on deck. I have a really popular YouTuber who I've been in talks with to try and have him tell his story. And then I have a website guy. He's pretty much confirmed, but he has a really popular website, and Google just screwed him. And I want to talk about how that happened. So I have these really, it runs the gamut on sort of all the stories, but I'm a storyteller, and I want to make sure it's not just somebody who deserves a second chance, but something that's like, oh, I didn't even know that. Like, what an interesting area, or look how much I learned about this topic beyond just the experience. So hopefully it'll become a weekly ongoing series, either on my channel or, depending how popular, its own channel, where each week I just have a heart-to-heart on, unedited, longer form dialogue with somebody in this format like we're doing. Where we can really go off and veer into subjects that are more serious, still have some fun, but really try and have some more in-depth conversations about serious stuff and tell some stories that I think deserve to be told.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fascinating. And yeah, I think that's a platform that people need. I mean, talking to anybody who's willing to listen to you after you've been through something is unbelievably helpful. I mean, look, right now, okay, you've seen the heights of YouTube that few people have ever seen. Now you obviously are kind of starting over. I know just from the way you've kind of talked and a few things you said, you're really happy and thankful to be on, you know, this channel, to be able to talk to me and talk to my audience, so you can have more people hear your story. You know what I mean? And if you can do that for other people that have been through something, you can make a huge, significant difference. So I fully support that project. There will be a link in this video. So please, everyone, please go support that project. I'm going to do everything I can to kind of help, you know, shine some light on that. Hopefully.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and there's some cool goals on Kickstarter, and anybody who's a fan of movie fights, I have a high tier level. It's actually been a popular one, but I'm gonna eventually do I have a show called Nerd Wars where I do debates of all, not just movies, it's all kinds, because I don't want to do anything that's exactly what I did. But I'm doing Nerd Wars, but I'm gonna do sort of a fan edition of Nerd Wars, and if you buy at that tier and help out, I'm going to judge people. I'm going to bring out the gavel again and judge a bunch of fans in an ultimate tournament. So there's some other stuff there, some exclusive podcasts and things I'm offering, some merch, other things. So yeah, a lot of fun tiers. I may try and add a cool new one soon, so stay tuned. But yeah, anything you can give, I would be very grateful and appreciative. I also have a Patreon. I'm trying not to like double dip and do everything. If the Kickstarter doesn't work, I'll come back and promote the Patreon then. But the Kickstarter is my goal right now, because unless someone prefers Patreon, it's there. But Patreon, it's different for people who don't know how the funding works. Like Patreon's monthly, Kickstarter's like if you don't reach your goal, you don't get it. So I went more ballsy and wanted to try and reach my 10 grand goal so I could have something to really work with, and pursue it for a longer period of time. Whereas Patreon's a little slower going, but you get monthly income.
Right.
But you know, that's why I wanted to focus on the Kickstarter first, because I believe in this project. I think it's really, I haven't been this passionate about a project in a while, and people are excited about it. But the struggle right now is it's not being shared because my story didn't get as broadly shared as it was, as I hoped it would. And so even just getting the word out on this new project is hard for me to do. So anything you can offer, even just by sharing it on Twitter, I gratefully appreciate it. Or if you can give a couple bucks, even better. Tweet at me anytime. I will thank you personally. But yeah, to all your audience. And also my other goal while I'm here, I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. I'm like 1,000 away. I'm like that close. So if you guys and your geeks and gamers help me push over the edge, let's rock togethere.
I think we can make that happen. And I'm happy that, you know, you've been able to kind of reach that goal so quickly with coming back. Where Popcorn to Plan, is that just an old channel you had?
Yeah, so I had a channel called Secret Sauce TV. That was like, it was a lot of like hot chick comedy back in the day. That's what worked on YouTube. I got a lot of flack for keeping that content up.
I know you did.
Interesting. And I haven't talked about that anywhere else. So you get this exclusive.
All right.
The reason I kept that up was because the actresses didn't want me to take them down. So it's like everyone just assumed I was making this exploitative, awful content, but no, they were like really popular, funny videos that just happened to have some girls in underwear and stuff. My most popular one that I was always proud of was this show called Twilight for Guys. So it was like Twilight, but I'd made it as if guys would love it. So it's like just girls making out, pretending to be vampires, and then it cuts to the guys, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's the best movie I've ever seen!" Because it was just this fandom over Twilight and watching the girls just go over this stupid plot. I was like, "How would you get guys to be this into this dumb idea? Oh, just make them girls in their underwear."
Yes.
And I made a few of those that were really funny that I was always proud of. They did really well, and I didn't want to erase my history. Like those were things I made. They exist. Mm-hmm. There were actresses and actors in it that were happy to be there, that were proud of it. I'm not going to just like scratch that all out because people are like, well, now you have to be respectful and you can't have exploitative thumbnails in your channel. Like, F that. Like that's.
I saw people using that against you too. I saw people using that against you.
And it was and for those that don't know how YouTube works, like if you don't have big content that you can't keep your monetization going and stuff, there were rules at the time. Like, and those were huge channel performers still to this day. So I was like, I'm not going to cut my biggest performers and suddenly just lose them, especially when the actors don't want me to remove them just to sort of be PC right now. So that was where that came from. I did take a few of them down that were just not very funny or not as necessary, but I always kept them there, and I'm gonna keep them just because that's where it came from. So look, I am offended by people who are like, you're just exploiting the women. Like, no, I wasn't. They were all down. Everyone had fun. Everyone made that. It was funny. We were making fun of a lot of exploitive stuff. Of course, we put boobs in the thumbnail because if you were around in that age of YouTube 8 years ago, 10 years ago, that's how YouTube worked. So I'm not going to erase the history. I heard they're erasing the thumbnails from Honest Trailers. It's funny because they're like Titanic. A couple of them took advantage of that too. And they apparently went back and like scrubbed the thumbnails.
Really?
To booby. But it's like, there was a phase where that was how YouTube worked. It wasn't about being sexist. It wasn't about anything. It was just like, hello, blame YouTube. Like that's how you got clicks because no one clicked otherwise.
That's you're talking about the algorithm. I mean, that's something I battle every day. I mean, I can't make it. I can't make a video that's not Star Wars or Marvel right now. I mean, yeah, I mean, the base will see it, but most people don't even get notified if I don't make a really hot button issue on the channel. They just don't. It's crazy. It's a real thing, and
it's weird because YouTube is pushing, and I do blame YouTube for this, and it's like pushing people like us to go more extreme than we probably want to be or need to be, because how else do we get the channel seen? And I feel like you and I would probably just rather talk about Star Wars or other things per week to week, but we're forced to sort of address bigger issues that I have no problem. You don't have a problem, I'm sure, either. But my point is, like, YouTube is like just poking everybody, and it's scary. And you have a kid. You said I have kids, and I'm so bothered by what they watch. It's just the algorithm, even for kids, is really scary because they just funnel this garbage to them, this long form content that's 30 minutes long that they just sit and become zombies to. And anytime I can, I always take it away. I'm like, stop, enough. But it's like just what our generation is now growing up on, this YouTube content. It's depressing. But what do you do?
I remember one time I told my daughter, she got in trouble, and I was like, no direct TV for the rest of the day. And she's like, okay. I was like,
exactly.
And then I talked to my wife. I was like, she didn't care. She goes, all she watches is YouTube. I'm like, oh crap. I was like, hey, forget that. Just no direct TV, but no YouTube. She goes, what? No. She just freaks out like she's lost it. Like everything has been taken away from her. I'm like, okay, I see now. I see. This was several years ago.
But stranglehold on our kids. It's terrifying. And most people, even parents, don't realize how much they're watching. They think, oh, they're playing an app. They're just playing Angry Birds. No, they're watching YouTube for hours. And if you don't look, I mean, obviously I should be paying attention. I do, but I'm just saying they still, you go and get shower and you go to the bathroom for a while, you come down a half hour later and they've watched this guy Morgs. Oh my God, he's the worst. Do you know Morgs, this YouTuber? He's like this guy who fakes these things with his parents, where he's like, I'm going to go buy everything I touch in the store. And it's like the worst. But as a 7-year-old, they're like, oh my God, wish fulfillment, and it's just lowest common denominator garbage that it makes me so mad. I wish I could get into better kids content. I've thought about it, but I don't think my Google will let me right now.
Yeah, I heard that.
Anyway, it's YouTube algorithm is real. It's affecting us in terrible ways.
Yeah, it is. It's a struggle, but I mean, I can't complain too much. I've managed to build a somewhat successful channel up to this point. It's just, it's not easy. People think, you just post a video and people watch. That's not. I mean, you have to do research. You have to do research of what is trending, what's this,
Dude,
that, other.
Thumbnails take an hour in themselves.
Mm-hmm. And so it is an interesting situation, but it's much better than the retail job that I worked before I was doing.
Good for you, but you're able to do it now full time?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got the whole business tied into it and everything. And I'm blessed to have a successful wife. So, I mean, that kind of helps.
That helps.
So respect women. But